But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, in the lower right corner of the map, the challenger to this great titan, it is the red Protoss, Shox. And his opponent in the upper right, green and Terran, it's gonna be Beastyqt. Now we gotta give some small props, guys. Shox also, first off, is streaming his first-person point of view. You find him on Team Liquid. His Twitch appears to be like /GoShox. And yeah, Protoss, you know, it's a very common thing I've noticed in this matchup where Protoss players tend to get stuck on that tier 1, tier 2 situation. It's not like regular StarCraft 2, right? Like you can't stick on your gateway units and rely on them to carry you through the game. Uberman, I'm not sure what sort of shout out you want. So this what I'm saying now is the closest you're gonna get. Anyways, there's some advanced tactics you can certainly utilize when it comes to STARBOW. Protoss have some really cool mechanics or harass options available to them. Reavers were never utilized in the last game. They are a great way to drop on top of a Terran player who does not have a ring of turrets down. Beastyqt, of course, is a little bit guilty of that. I feel strongly that if Shox had taken a Warp Prism towards the main, or even without filled with Reavers, just with some Zealots or something, like put a little bit more pressure into Beasty outside of the front lines, that would have been another great way to break him. Reavers, by the way, guys, kind of replace the Colossus, or I guess if you're considering the term, the chronological side of things, Colossus replaced Reavers, but they both fill the same role, whether there's area of effect mechanical type tier 2, tier 3 units that are meant to deal a lot of damage to small clusters of units. I would love to see Reavers or even a Stargate utilize this game, but if Shox tries to play with his gateway tech once again, you can take control in the early game very easily as a Protoss player. One of the biggest advantages is your range, but against a player like Beasty, expecting that to carry you through to the end game simply won't cut it. I gotta give it up for Shox though again. Last game, that early third base, some really cool moves, and the soft contain outside of Beasty's natural were really impressive. But Beastyqt, perhaps a little more impressive, was able to play through that with very little issue whatsoever. I think actually, was it Heyoka from Team Liquid put a tweet out a little while ago. I tweeted it, or I retweeted it because it's funny, where he's like, why does every Protoss game I ever see versus Beastyqt involve like people just throwing Dragoons away at a bunker that never dies, or something to that extent? And that's pretty much how it goes if you watch not just the ESL tournament broadcast, but his own stream. Again, Beastyqt is a player who streams STARBOW a lot, and if you want to see more of this awesome mod, he's definitely one of the people to check out for it. But he has lost. He's not untouchable. People like Goody and Nurture have beaten him in the past. He's had to forfeit out of tournaments too. He's not god-like to the point where he's gonna be the end-all be-all, but I'm smelling after that early game, he doesn't want to have to deal with that again, and he's gonna be going for some quicker vultures here. So with the Tech Lab opening, this allows him to get the Spider-Mines, which are not nearly as relevant, in my opinion, as the Ion Thrusters when it comes to early worker harass, but can certainly dance around and trade with Dragoons. If the Spider-Mines are down as well, it will keep any sort of push from Shox coming into BC's base, but yep, Ion Thruster is going to be the weapon of choice for these Vultures, and I don't care how good Dragoons are, they're not going to kill the Vultures before they get some worker kills. That's pretty much guaranteed with the Ion Thrusters. Pushing out a little bit early again, perhaps expecting a bunker, something Beasty doesn't have down, sadly. Might hurt Beasty a little bit here in the end. Not to the point where he'll be out of the game by any means, but Vultures versus Dragoons doesn't exactly go in the favor of Vultures most of the time. But with Overcharge coming down on these factories, he is certainly producing a lot. A little bit supply blocked right now, but his supply depot finishes up, so it's only for our moments. Barracks floating outward will see this coming. This small choke will be a nice thing to fight around, but there's no uphill defender's advantage. I guess I didn't really talk about that last time too. One of the bigger things involved with STARBOW, a lot of you may be unaware of, is the fact that if you shoot uphill, you have a 50% chance to miss. Vultures being brought into the fray, but as we see, they do take a bit of damage from the Dragoons. Some bonus damage going off here, and SCVs are pulled to try and tank some of these hits so the Vultures can get involved with the fight, but despite repairing on the front lines, Dragoons are not going to be easily dealt with anytime soon. Ion Thrusters has finished up. Now these Vultures are incredibly quick and can hit and run with relative ease, but the range of these Dragoons should allow them to make sure to get a hit or two before the Vultures get away. And Beasty, this was a good move as far as a rush tactic goes, but holding this off is not going to be easy. If that bunker had been down, maybe that would have deterred Shox just a little bit, but I think what he needs to do is get a tank out. Unfortunately, Beasty has no economy due to constantly pulling his workers like this, and I've never seen Beasty falter quite such a way, but it's It's not looking too good here, guys. If he loses the vultures, then he'll have nothing to lay down those spider mines afterwards, and Shox is just coming across with even more units. A quick, good game. We'll end this in game number 2, and Shox will even up the series 1-1. Shmazriel. Sorry, I can't say your name, dude. The game is definitely a bit slower as far as getting going, but once it gets going, it almost doesn't stop. Like, StarCraft 2's got a lot of posturing and, you know, sitting back to macro, whereas STARBOW, I find, is like, once you get going, you just keep units rallied the entire game and keep going and going and going. I've only cast a couple of games that have really been like a death ball scenario. But yeah, everything is technically a little bit slower. I wouldn't disagree with that statement.